This is the Voyage Report podcast, where you get the scoop on travel. Now, the editor-in-chief of the Voyage Report, Mark Albert.
Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome aboard the Voyage Report. I'm so excited to tell you who we are, what we're going to provide you, and how we can help each other as everyone on our team of reporters commits to original journalism, visually rich content, and money-saving tips and tricks. You know, as our tagline says, get the scoop on travel. And we mean whether that's the news of the day, so airline mergers, weather disruptions, etc., or deals, information about destinations, tips and tricks, the whole nine yards. We're here to do it for you. So let me just start off here by telling you a little bit about myself and why I wanted to create and lead this online newsroom focused on travel and transportation, news and information. So I've been a broadcast journalist for nearly 20 years now, the past 3 years as a freelance correspondent at CBS News. I had stints in newsrooms around the country, WUSA, the CBS affiliate in Washington, D.C., KSTP, the ABC affiliate in Minneapolis, St. Paul, WWMT, the CBS station in Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Michigan, KHSL in Chico, Redding, California, and then reporting for a cable news show in Los Angeles called Impact. And that whole time, you know, I've been focused on investigative reporting. I've won a Peabody Award, a dozen Emmys. And so I've covered the gamut of stories. But, you know, my number one hobby has always been travel. And of course, if I could travel for work, that was fantastic. But traveling when I had any time off was always the number one thing that I loved to do. I've always been bitten by it. My parents sent me to Russia when I was 11 years old on an exchange program. And I didn't really love travel at that time. I was horribly homesick. I can remember it was for 3 weeks. And can you just imagine as an 11-year-old spending 3 weeks in Russia, and I learned as much Russian as I could at the time, and this was before the wall fell. It was 1988, I think, or 1987, so it was quite early, but I've totally adopted travel as just my number one hobby so far. I've been to 54 countries as of this podcast, and a lot of people say, wow, that's a lot of countries. Well, it is, except there are, 200 countries in the world. So if you look at it that way, I've got 3/4 of the globe to go. And so I'm a little behind here, and I need to speed up a little bit. So I go whenever I can. But, you know, I've never had the money or the time to do it like all the airlines and the travel agents seem to make us think we have to, right? I mean, I think the common perception is, and I used to have this perception, is that you have to have $5,000 and 2 weeks to go anywhere. If you want to go to Europe, if you want to go to Asia, if you want to go to New Zealand or Australia. And you know what? I've never had that amount of cash and that amount of time. You know, I've had maybe 3, 4, 5 days at a time, and if I include a weekend. And, you know, maybe I've got $1,000, maybe I've got a couple of hundred, and that's all that I have. And so I tried to look for a way that I could travel and get to as many destinations as I wanted while doing it affordably. That's the key. And so I changed my mindset as it related to travel, and I sort of coined this phrase called travel tapas. You know, tapas are those small dishes of food that little bite-sized morsels, and you can share them, Spanish tapas and whatnot. And I kind of look at travel that way, travel tapas. So I want little bites of culture, little bites of scenery and new countries and people and all of that stuff. And so I typically go for just a couple of days. Maybe it's 3 days, 4 days, and I try to do so affordably and quickly. You know, would it be great to jaunt around Europe for a month? Absolutely. I've never had the time to do that. And I didn't want that to keep me chained to my desk or to my house or to my couch. You know, I wanted to get out and I wanted to see the world. And so doing it a few days at a time and affordably is how I could start to see the world, and how I amassed 54 countries so far around the world. And so that's kind of my mission personally, is to try to get to all the countries in the world as affordably and as enjoyably as I can. And if I can take away the stress of having to ask for a week or two off from work, and if I can not worry about, oh my gosh, can I afford $4,000, $5,000, then that makes the adventure, that makes the journey that much more enjoyable for me. And I'm sure you'll agree, right? When you get a big deal or a big discount on something, somehow it just tastes better, seems better, smells better when you can experience it that way. And so I look at travel as travel tapas, and I don't go somewhere for a very long time. In fact, you're going to laugh probably as you're listening to this. I know my parents did when I first told them a couple of years ago, but I once went to Australia for the weekend, just for the weekend. I think I flew out on was it a Thursday night or a Friday, and you lose a day going over. And so I basically had Saturday and Sunday in Sydney, Australia, and then I came back on Monday morning and, arrived Monday afternoon because you cross over the date line and you gain that time back. But, I found a great deal, several $100s, and I went to Australia and I had a wonderful time for the weekend. And, when you're only somewhere for a couple of days, you don't really catch jet lag. And we've got tips for you on how to beat jet lag if you suffer from that. But so I've been to all of these countries, and thankfully my wallet has not suffered too greatly as a result. And I'll tell you, some of the places in the world are just amazing. I mean, I remember one of my best trips was New Zealand. And I always go somewhere on my birthday every year. And I went there once for my birthday. And first of all, you feel as though you are on the set of Lord of the Rings. I mean, it was shot there, so that makes sense. But you're in this green, lush landscape, this beautiful other world. I mean, it is just amazing. It's magical. Now I can see why they shot the movie there. And I took a train all the way down from Auckland, the capital, through the North Island, and then I took a ferry to the South Island and took a train south through the island and then over to the west through the mountains. And my gosh, it was just an amazing experience. So I loved it, New Zealand. I thought as far as cities go, Prague and the Czech Republic was just magical. Venice was enchanting. I felt like I was on a Disney set or something. It was amazing. Japan was an amazing country for just how orderly it is and how everything just sort of seems to be in the place that you want it to be. It's just very natural, very instinctive to use. And so I've had great adventures so far. I want to go to Antarctica. I haven't been there yet. I'd love to go. I haven't been to Cuba yet. And there are a lot of other places that I want to go just to see because I'm just so curious. And I found, and I don't know about you, but I found that I get more curious the older that I get. It's really amazing. And so I've wanted to keep exploring, but I've wanted to do it affordably. And I think that the central frustration people have, at least this was my central frustration, and the reason why people don't travel more. We hear, of course, that Americans take less vacation time than most other industrial countries. But I think the central reason is because people feel travel is too frustrating, too expensive, too time-consuming, too intimidating to research. I mean, if you want to go to France, if you want to go to Japan, where do you begin? You worry about the language. You worry about where you're going to stay. Am I going to be in a good neighborhood? How do I get to these sites, these places that I want to go? It can be intimidating, and some people think, oh my gosh, I need 2 weeks to plan this or whatnot. Listen, folks, I'm here to fact check this myth, and I'm here to tell you it's not true. You don't have to spend 3 weeks researching something. You don't have to be intimidated. You don't have to be frustrated. You certainly don't have to spend $5,000. You can do it cheaply, affordably. You can lift this weight off your shoulders, and you can make travel accessible for your budget, for your time, and so that, again, that you enjoy it. And I've sort of come into this system now where lately the trips that I've been going on, I think a day or two before I start researching where I want to go and Googling or figuring out where the places are. And so I have sort of condensed the time that it takes me to research a place, but it can be frustrating for me still. I mean, absolutely. And so a lot of times friends will come to me and they'll ask me, okay, I'm going on my honeymoon to Bermuda and I don't want to plan this. So can you just tell me what you did when you were there and give me an itinerary? And so I'm happy to obviously do that. And I'm happy to, give them all of my tips and all of my advice. And so I just sort of thought about, well, if my friends are asking for this, I think that more people probably need a resource for travel tips that are tried and true, that aren't based on advertisements or sponsored posts, that somebody has actually done this and they know that it works. And I thought that sticking with my journalism background where, I go somewhere and I research the facts and I write everything down and I take copious notes and I try to be as objective about it as possible, I thought, well, maybe somebody with that background can bring something to the table and try to make this a less frustrating and intimidating process. So I sketched out this idea for an online newsroom. And I had a bunch of help from some close friends sharing ideas. Some close friends in Chicago actually turned over a dining table receipt. We were at a restaurant for brunch and just started scribbling ideas. And so with their help, I started mulling this over in my mind and trying to sketch out some outlines. And so I really started focusing on this in October of 2016. And then I went at it full time in November. And I wanted to solve this central frustration. Research, too much information, too confusing. For me, it really hit home last year. I went to France, and all I really wanted to do was go to Normandy, in the beaches where the Allies stormed the Nazi forces on July 6, 1944, Omaha Beach. I wanted to stand on the beach, and I wanted to look down the coastline and up at those imposing cliffs and just try to imagine the horror of that day. And I wanted to pay my homage there. And I was so frustrated that online I could not figure out how to go to Normandy on my own. There were a million tour groups that I could pay a lot of money, and they'd take me on a bus with 50 other people, and it would be this, multi-day or full-day thing or whatever. All I wanted to do was hop on the train in Paris on my own, go, take public transportation, walk along the beach, go to the American Cemetery, and go back that night. And for the life of me, I could not find the information. And that's the central problem as far as researching it is these days. I find there are two key pots of information that you can access. One, you can go to sites that give you 10,000 posts on something. We all know what they are. I won't name check them. And boy, if you have time to read through those 10,000 posts, it is a wealth of information, absolutely. But what if the information I need is on post 8,364 and I give up long before then? Or I don't have time to go through that. And then, of course, you have these other sites where they are deeply, deeply researched, and they're hour-long documentaries on this place in Europe. Well, that's great if I want to know that Napoleon III walked through the Paris catacombs in 1836 or something like that. But it's not as helpful if I want to know that don't go to the catacombs before 3 p.m. on a weekday because you're going to wait in a line that's 2 hours long. And oh, by the way, you could have made reservations. That's the kind of practical information, the kind of money-saving advice that, my friends and family have asked me to share with them. And what we here at the Voyage Report want to share with you. And that's really how this entire adventure, if you call it, began. And I've been very fortunate because everywhere I've gone, like I mentioned, I sort of think of things like a reporter. And so for the last 10 or 11 years, since I've really been traveling, everywhere I go, I keep a notebook. And so I keep a notebook and an itinerary of everywhere I go, the time that I arrived, how long it took me, how long the line was, how much I paid, if I saved any money, if there were any coupon codes, what I thought of the hotel or the hostel or the Airbnb or whatever it happens to be. And I have this file cabinet at home. And I get back and I put all of my notes and all of my receipts and all the brochures and everything that you pick up along the way, excess currency if I have, 2 cents left from somewhere. And I put it in a folder and I mark it with the destination. I file it away in the file cabinet because I always thought, well, if I go back there or a friend wants the information, I can give it to them. Well, so I started to think, my gosh, I've got 50 countries in my file cabinet that I've been to that I have all of this information. It's just sitting there, and I've got 26,000 photos of these places. Some I'm pretty proud that I've taken, and videos, and all this information, and it's not doing anything. And why don't I share that information? As reporters, we try to share information so that people can know more, can make decisions for themselves, and can be armed with information, which is power, right? And so I thought, why don't I just crack open that file cabinet and put this information to use? And so that's how this all began. And so today is not only our first podcast here, and I'm so grateful that you're listening, but it's also our first official day online as the Voyage Report. So thank you very much for listening and for going to our website. And let me just kind of walk through what we're going to deliver for you and what we have up there and what you can find and what you'll expect on these podcasts going forward. First of all, we're going to start every podcast with the same 3 questions because I think that these questions sort of will allow you to get an insight into the personality of our guests and will allow you to sort of learn something along the way as well. And so all of our guests, we're going to ask them right off the bat, what has been your biggest discovery while traveling? So this could be a place they discovered that they loved, a city. This could be a lesson within themselves that they discovered while traveling. This could be a tip or a trick or money-saving advice or something. So we're going to ask them about their biggest discovery, and I think we're going to really learn some really illuminating things. I've already done some of these interviews for some of the podcasts coming up here, and I can tell you that they were really interesting answers, and some I did not expect. The second question we're going to ask everybody is the favorite place you've been to. Why? Because it's an obvious question, and it's the number one question people ask me when they find out that I travel so much. When I tell them that I've been to 54 countries so far, they want to know what was my favorite. So we're going to ask everybody that same question, and you'll know as well. And then the third question is the next place they're going to travel to. You know, a lot of people always ask, what's the next book you're reading, or what's the book you're reading right now on your nightstand? And so we're going to ask people, what's the next place you're traveling to? So those are the three questions we'll start off every podcast with. And let me just go through those real quick for you right now, for me, so that you know a little bit about me as well. My biggest discovery while traveling has been that I can go alone. And, you know, this sort of came up. I was celebrating my 30th birthday, I think it was, and I wanted to mark that milestone. And I wanted to go somewhere. I was living in Minneapolis at the time, reporting for KSTP. And I kept asking people to go with me. Hey, you know, because I thought, oh, well, I have to go with somebody. And no one wanted to go. And I thought to myself, if I wait around for someone to want to go with me everywhere I want to go, I'm going to be waiting a very long time. You know, not everyone is available when you're available, you know, and you can't wait your entire life to do something based on other people, whether that's a boss, I think, or a job, or the right, quote unquote, right move, or a friend, or whatever. If you believe in something, if you want to do something, you should just seize the moment and go. And I've never had a problem with talking to people and sort of just engaging strangers and all that stuff. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go on my own. And so I booked a trip to Puerto Rico, and I went, and I remember this so clearly. I was swimming in the ocean, in the Caribbean Sea there, in the waters, right there off of San Juan. And I remember thinking, my gosh, this is great. And I didn't need to wait for anyone. I could just go do it. And so that's sort of been my motto. Hey, if someone wants to come with me on this great $400 fare to Europe, you're all in. That's fantastic. In fact, I just went with a very, very dear friend to Budapest a couple of months ago, and we had a great, great time. And so that's wonderful. I love traveling with people, and I love being with great friends, but you can't wait your whole life for that. And I never would have been to 54 countries if I waited for somebody. And so my biggest discovery while traveling is that, you know what, I can do this on my own. I can do this myself. I can research it. I can plan it. I can navigate a foreign public transportation system. I can use badly 5 or 6 basic words in a foreign language that I don't know to try and endear myself to the locals so they'll take pity on me and help me out. And so I found out, yeah, I can do this. And so that's my biggest discovery. My favorite place, I sort of mentioned a few of them before. I did love New Zealand. I've always wanted to go to Vienna. I haven't yet. But I would say New Zealand was great. Prague was a wonderful city. Venice was enchanting. Those are probably my 3. Probably my favorite country, though, would be New Zealand. It was wonderful. And then the next place that I'm traveling to is going to be Romania. I just got back from Greece. That fare was, I think, about $460 round trip, major airline economy. And then I'm going to Romania because I think that was about $470 or so, $460 or $470 round trip economy, major airline. And so I'm going to go to Romania and perhaps while I'm there, dip into Slovakia. I've never been to either, and I always look to go somewhere different. I don't really like to repeat too much. And like I said, folks, I've got 3/4 of the world to go, so I always want to, go somewhere different. But the way that I choose where I'm going is basically that. have I been there before? And if I haven't been there before, then I want to go. So that's how I went to Casablanca, Morocco for $498 round trip in 2016. As I mentioned, I went to France, and that was $471 round trip. That's also why I went to Muscat, Oman, which is Oman's right near Saudi Arabia. And I walked along the Corniche there, and that was just over $200 round trip. I went for a day and a half, but it was a deal I couldn't pass up. And I went to Panama to see the Panama Canal. That was for $257 round trip. Went to Australia for just under $300. Like I mentioned, we went to Budapest, and that was $462. And I figured out later that fare was about 64% off the normal price. So that was a pretty good deal. I went to Peru because I had always wanted to go to Machu Picchu, which is stunning. And that cost $295 actually, for that trip, round trip, which was fantastic, obviously. And so that's how I determine where I'm going to go. I wait to find the destination, and it's worked out really well for me, and I've got to see a lot of the countries. So we're going to try to share a lot of that with you on our website, the Voyage Report, and I'm going to walk you through right now just kind of what you're going to find when you go on there, so that you have a kind of an idea of what we're going to deliver for you and what you'll be able to find there when you go on. And I hope you do go on, and I hope you bookmark it and make it part of your daily activity in the morning when you wake up or right before you go to bed. And so basically when you go to our homepage, you're going to notice several things. We've got a lot of different content. Right off the top, you'll notice a gorgeous photo rotating of places that we've covered, places that we've been. These are photos that we've taken. They're not stock photos that we bought from somewhere. We don't really believe in that at all. We want you to see an authentic experience, what it really looks like, not terribly photoshopped with all these fancy flares and all that stuff, and not, bought from somebody who, sat around for 6 days waiting to take it. We want you to see what we saw and what we think you'll be able to see yourself. So when you go on our website, one of the most prominent features you'll see is this big video box, and it says at the top travel tips in 2 minutes. Top travel tips in 2 minutes. This is bringing my broadcast sensibility, if you will. I did a broadcast package. We call it a story on the evening news, for 18 years, and it always has to be under 2 minutes. So we're going to do that for destinations. And so when you go on our site right now, we've got 50 videos up. Every destination is about 2 minutes long. And so these top travel tips in 2 minutes, almost all of them are free. And you can watch it for Hungary and Budapest and Taiwan and France and Morocco and Japan and all of these places. And we want you to get the most important information, what we think is most valuable to you. In journalism, we call it the lead, right? The most important information. So we want to tell you visually and with information, hey, here's where we think you're going to love to go. Here's some great visuals so that you get an idea of what you can see there. We're not going to be an exhaustive source. We're not going to give you an hour-long documentary. We want you to get a taste of what you can see there. And then under the video, when you click on that destination page, you'll be able to see all the links and information for all the places you saw in that video. So if you see, for example, somewhere in Taiwan or Morocco or Hungary or New Zealand that you love, that you want to go experience, we've got the information, the jumping off point so that you can go see that. So each post will have all these different subheaders. So the basics, where to go, how to get there, worth noting, money-saving tip. And at the end of each of these places, we will have a comment section. And so you can go on right now and add your comments. Hey, have you been somewhere? Have you been to Canada? You've been to Jamaica? You've been to Chile? Fantastic. Add your tips there. We don't know everything, right? We're reporters. We try to figure out information, but we don't know everything. And so we are relying on you sharing your tips and tricks with us and with the other travelers out there, your fellow passengers. So you'll see that right on the left, column 1, you'll see the latest headlines for travel. So this could be, hey, this airline is buying that airline. It could be, look, there are 3,000 flights already canceled for tomorrow because of weather. It could be that airline cancellation rates are the lowest that they have been in 2 decades. It could be a new travel warning that's just been posted for Americans somewhere. So we want you to get your travel headlines for the day as well. So you'll see the headlines. You'll see our top travel tips in 2 minutes. If you see a place you want to go or you want to find out what the current airfare is right now, we've got an Expedia booking window right there that you can just search for flights, packages, and hotels right there. And then if you scroll down, you'll see our section. We call it Travel Like a Pro. And we have 4 sections here: on the road, saving money, gadgets and tech, and health and safety. So on the road, we'll have posts like, how do you beat jet lag? Because I never get jet lag anymore. I know that might be hard to believe, but I've come up with a system that works for me, and I never get jet lag anymore. Saving money, all kinds of ways, from getting free Wi-Fi to upgrades to all kinds of different things. Gadgets and tech. I really enjoy writing the post about my favorite travel apps, and we have a lot of different sections there for you, and then health and safety. So we actually have a great thing in here with a personal trainer, a master trainer, and he walks us through on video routines that you can do when you're traveling in your hotel room or in a park that don't require weights to stay fit while you're on the road. Because for me, that was a struggle. You know, when you're traveling and you don't have access to a gym or you don't think you have time, what's something I can do in 15 or 30 minutes to stay fit? And then we also have a video from this master trainer about how to eat healthy on the road, and he shares his tips as well. Then at the very top of the page, you'll see all of our menus. So you can go to our destinations page. We have a gorgeous map of the globe, pins everywhere with all of the destinations that we have videos for. And we're going to be updating these constantly. So if you go on today and you come back in a couple of days, there'll be more destinations there. But we wanted to get the site up, obviously. We have our deals page, which I really think is going to be one of the most valuable parts of this site, the Voyage Report. When you go on voyagereport.com and you click on deals, every morning, every night, whenever you want to go on, it will be a constantly updating feed of deals. So $400 round trip to this place in Europe, $500 to this place over in Asia, $69 one-way flights from the West Coast to Iceland or whatever it happens to be. And you can search airfare deals, you can search hotel deals, rental car deals. We're going to curate and post for you everything we can about deals. We'll also post special deals that we find along the way for you there as well. So I really hope that that will be a place that people will bookmark and come to all the time. And then we will also have courses, e-courses, e-learning courses. They're really hot right now. And so we wanted to do one on how to land, pardon the pun, how to land an airfare deal. And so it's divided into 6 parts. I teach the course, and we walk you through how I find these deals. How in the world, people say to me, how in the world can you travel all the time for under $500 round trip, major airlines to all these amazing destinations? They'll say, look, when I search, it's $1,200, it's $1,400, it's $2,000. And of course, who's going to pay that much for economy, right? You're not going to pay that much to be packed in as a sardine. So I walk you through exactly on video, very visual, with aids. How do I find these deals? What do I look for? Where do I go? And then when I find a deal, how do I book it? Because the deals I'm talking about, they are gone in a flash. And they're ones that you're not going to find out about very many places. And so when I find these deals, how do I book them? And so I actually take you through a live deal. So it was live when I was recording the course, and I show you step by step, telling you websites you may have never heard of how I price out the deal and how I find the perfect routing for me from where I'm going to be, my destination and where I want to go, and the time of the layover and all this stuff, how to sneak in maybe a night in Amsterdam on the way over if I want for free. So I'll show you all that. And then I show you in this course how you can set up your personal deal alert network. So how you can set this up in under 5 minutes so that you never miss a deal. This is exactly what I do. This is exactly how I plan my trips and how I got all those amazing prices. I mean, can you imagine going to Australia for under $300? So that's our course page. We've got our news page. We've got a shop. So if you love our photography, the photography that I've taken on my destinations, our contributors have taken, and our other reporters. We have some of that on canvas, beautiful canvas, and also on posters. And so if you want to buy our photography and support our original journalism, we have a way for you to do that there. And then about, contact, be a contributor, all those types of things. And so that's all at voyagereport.com. You can drop the. We are the Voyage Report, but for the website name, it's just voyagereport.com, voyagereport.com. And so that's a little bit about our website, what we're going to give you. And I just want to be very transparent here. There are a lot of travel websites. A lot of sites post whatever they can for the money they can get. They make deals with advertisers, and they only post it because they know the advertiser is going to give them a lot of money. We don't do that. Our integrity is not for sale. When you go to voyagereport.com, you don't ever have to worry about, my gosh, is this a sponsored post? Have they been bought? What's going on under the table here? You don't have to worry about that. We review things we believe in. We post things because our reporting shows that they are valuable to share with you. You can obviously decide whether or not to take the advice, take the research, read the product, whatever you'd like to do. But we are giving you that option. We are committed to being transparent in our reporting, in our analysis. And so we do not take free or discounted travel, gifts, or services, or the promise of any compensation from any of the places, merchants, or products that we include in our reporting at the time that we review them. So no one's saying, hey, we'll send a private plane for you and we will bring you over here halfway across the world if you give us a favorable review. We don't accept compensation when we decide where we're going. We make all the decisions of what we're going to do, what we're going to cover, where we're going to go, and we buy our own way. So that's really important. And so you're probably wondering to yourself, well, my gosh, how are they making money then? How can they support this site if they're not making these deals that we, frankly expect that everyone is making when it comes to travel and whatnot? So very transparent. It's on our website. I'm happy to share with you our 5 revenue sources. One, by the number of visitors that interact with our ads. Obviously, if you click on an ad, we get compensation for that. When people use our referral or affiliate links in our articles. So, for example, if we mention a product or something that we use all the time or a place that we stayed all the time because we thought it was valuable to share with you, and we include a link to that product or place or that merchant, and you go to it through that click, we get a little small bonus, and that goes right into supporting our journalism. So we appreciate and we thank you for your support on clicking on those links if you feel like it. We then also have a revenue stream from our premium subscription. So we have a paywall for some of our content. If you want to sign up, it's very, very affordable. We have our e-courses and we have our store. The photography, we've got mugs and hats and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. All of that goes back into supporting our journalism and our content, which allows us to travel more and review more destinations and more places for you. So let me give you a quick preview, quick sneak peek here about what's coming up. So you should be able to see right now in this podcast menu that there are 2 other podcasts at least listed for you. One is an amazing interview with this couple in Minnesota, and they chase eclipses of the sun. They're basically, instead of storm chasers, they are star chasers. They're galaxy chasers. And so there's this Great American Total Eclipse. That's what it's being called, Great American Eclipse, later in 2017. August 21st, it's a Monday. Set your calendars right now. August 21st, 2017, total eclipse. It is the first time since the Founding Fathers declared our independence in 1776 that it will be a total eclipse, and that part of it will be able to be seen from all parts of the 48 states of the continental United States. It's the first time that it's been this broad since 1776 here. And so it's just this fascinating discussion with this couple that for 36 years has traveled throughout the United States in a Winnebago, has gone to 4 different countries, Aruba and Canada and Mexico and trying to find these eclipses. And of course, they're chasing the weather. They're trying to beat the cloud cover and all this stuff. But it's fascinating. And what they've learned together about each other, about themselves, and why they continue to do it, and how they're planning to chase the eclipse this coming August. So that's just a wonderful podcast. I actually have a trip planned at that time, and now I've thought about maybe I should cancel it and stay around so I can see the total eclipse. And then we also have a podcast with CBS News' Jeff Begays. He's a well thought of correspondent there. In fact, we used to sit about 50 feet away from each other when I worked there in the DC bureau. And he is the Justice and Homeland Security correspondent for CBS News. And we talk about traveler safety and the current threat environment, the current situation. The State Department sends out these travel warnings all the time, and I always check them before I go to a destination. But with all of these attacks we saw in Nice, France, and these other places, and the threats to New York and Election Day and all these other things, Jeff is really in touch with his sources and in the Justice Department and Homeland Security and without and throughout. And he shares with us the picture for 2017 and what travelers should be aware of and hotspots and what law enforcement is doing here in the United States, but also overseas to try to protect Americans and all travelers from the threats that are out there. We want to travel and we want to have a great time, but we want to be safe doing it. And so Jeff in this podcast gives us all of these tips and this advice and gives us really an inside look at what the Justice Department and Homeland Security are doing right now to protect you and to try to protect all of us when we travel in this kind of uncertain age that it is. So I hope that you'll check out those podcasts. We are committing to you to put out a podcast every Tuesday, Travel Tuesday, which is the same day that we put out our newsletter. So if you'd like to sign up at voyagereport.com, just type in your email address there. We'll be happy to send you a newsletter. If you're a premium subscriber, we'll also send you breaking airfare deal alerts. So these are deals that will not wait for the next newsletter. They may not even wait until the next day. So we will send those out to you when we think it's a really hot deal from a lot of destinations that you might want to take advantage of, and that's one of the things that we'll promise to do for you. And so all that begins when you enter your email address at voyagereport.com. But I want to thank you very much for listening to this first podcast as we go on this journey together, this voyage together, if I can use that pun. But I'm really excited. And most importantly, please feel free to share your tips, your tricks, your advice. Everybody has some, and we want this to be an engaging process. So you can either leave a comment on our pages at our website, or you can reach out to us and engage with us on Twitter, on our YouTube channel, where some of our videos will be posted, where we're actually going to try to go live on our YouTube channel during some of our trips and our travels. So make sure you sign up for that and subscribe, please. As well as LinkedIn. We're on there as well, and Facebook, of course, which we're going to be posting a lot of. And so please like us, subscribe, review, tell us what you like, tell us what you think we can improve on, because we're always looking to get better. And we always know we can get better, and we're going to try to do that for you so that we can all enjoy making travel a less frustrating and more enjoyable and affordable experience. So thank you for joining us for our first podcast. I do hope you'll subscribe, give us an honest review here about the podcast, and if you find it interesting, or if you learn something, which is more important, please like us and follow us on social media. I'm Mark Albert, Editor-in-Chief of The Voyage Report, and I'll end this podcast the way that I'm going to end every video on our site, and of course with a hat tip to our name, by saying, Bon Voyage.
You've been listening to the Voyage Report podcast. Get the scoop on travel at voyagereport.com.